Guys, Maksat Ibrahimov here from MMA Heart. Today we have a very special guest coming on our show, Canada's most exciting fighter, Jayden Martin. How are you doing, Jayden?
Hey, appreciate you having me, man. Doing good, doing good. Just having my afternoon coffee, relaxing on the couch on this Sunday, and yeah, excited for this interview, man.
Jayden, so you're currently the number 4 ranked middleweight in BFL. It's rumored that your next fight is going to be taking place on May 9th at BFL 80. Do we have any news on who you'll be fighting?
Yeah, I don't know if they've officially announced it on the cards yet, but everybody knows about it locally. I'm gonna be fighting Christian Tremaine, who's another local fighter, a journeyman, former amateur champion, I believe. Um, yeah, so he's it's the breaking news, I guess.
Mhm. And you mentioned earlier that the goal for you is to get that middleweight title by the end of the year. How close do you think a win on May 9th is going to put you towards that title shot?
I think if I win this one in spectacular fashion, which I plan on doing, then that kind of rockets me up to either a title eliminator or a shot at the vacant title. Um, there we have Jared Revel, who's the champ right now, and we also have an interim champion. But I'm not sure how active they are with the deal. What that is going to be, if they're going to be defending the belts, unifying it, or if it's going to be up for grabs.
Mhm. And Jayden, you have been in the game for more than 20 years at this point. Of course, you're a very familiar face to this BFL scene as well. You have been the former amateur welterweight champion for BFL. BFL seems to also be pushing you a lot right now. They have, put that number 4 ranking next to your name. Um, do you think that you'll get this title shot, sooner than you originally thought? Because I saw an interview with you where you mentioned that it would take you 3 fights to get the title shot. So do you think that now initially you can, get the title shot sooner than you originally planned?
In this game, its goal is to get there in as little fights as possible. The wear and tear on the body, the weight cut, the damage that you get and you accumulate. And again, especially for doing this for as long as I have, like I'm turning 30 this year, but training martial arts full contact for 20 years, it's like dog years. I feel like I'm 60, 70 years old when I wake up in the morning. So if I can get there in 2 fights to fight for the title as opposed to 3 or 4, I'm all for it. But I got to get through Christian first, and he's a tough guy, and going in there, if I finish him the way I plan on doing it, then I don't see why that title shot wouldn't be the next step.
Yeah, and Jayden, as you mentioned before, the current middleweight champion is Jared Revel. How do you think you match up with the champ?
Jared Revel's good. He's stood the test of time. He's had a lot of really good guys come in and fight him. I think I have the tools on the feet, the ground. I have a very underrated ground game, and that's where he specializes in. My well-roundedness as a martial arts fighter, I think, would shine through. And again, I always say this: I do have my secret weapon, which is Chris Franco, and I've been with him for 20 years. He knows me so well, the style and the synergy that we have, and besides being a phenomenal retired fighter, his fight IQ and his brain and his eye for things is next level. So if Jared were to be the opponent or whoever it is, having him on my side to break things down and come up with a game plan is that, again, that little extra.
Mhm. And how's your training camp, going leading up to May 9th? As we know, you recently came back from Xtreme Couture Las Vegas, where you trained with the likes of Sean Strickland, Edmund Shabazian, Chris Curtis, and even, you even trained with Sadi Busi as well. So how was
Yep.
that, experience?
It was good. It was a big eye opener to be down there with those guys, rubbing shoulders and training with some of the top guys in the big three organization, right? Going down there with Caio Machado, it's been great. He's been one of my main, if not my main training partner for a very long time, for close to 10 years. And it's great. He's got all the tools and the skills, but the downside is he's 265 pounds. And I used to fight at welterweight, so there's a big weight discrepancy. So being down there with guys that are welterweight, light heavy, middleweights, it was good. And at that level as well, I really got to prove to myself something I already knew, but test myself and really understand what I'm capable of. And come May 9th, I'm going to let everybody else know as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned before that, you used to watch these guys on TV, and today already,
Yeah.
now, you're actually in those rooms, and you said that, you always knew that you belong in those rooms with those guys. So I want to ask you about, UFC PI as well. What was that experience like to visit UFC PI?
It's good. I've been there a couple times now. With Kyle being there for the contender series back last year, and then his fight in last August. So it's always nice. I honestly, like, if I didn't have a family and a gym and a business set up here, I would move to Vegas. It's amazing. Wake up in the morning, train, eat, recover, train, eat, recover, and repeat. Like that. That's the life. Beautiful weather. It's warm. It's nice. Like you're just so focused. There's no outside distractions. And again, you're surrounded with people that are like-minded in that approach. So it was great. I'm probably going to go back again. Try to squeeze in one more session before this fight.
Right. And what was working with Coach Eric Nixick like as well?
Unfortunately, he wasn't there for the most part. Sean ran a lot of the sessions. I think Eric was getting ready for Jeremy Kennedy's fight because it was just around the corner with Pitbull. So I saw Jeremy there a couple of times, another local guy, but he was kind of doing his own thing in preparation.
And was this your first time, meeting Sean Strickland and working with him? And also, could you tell, us, the fans, what is it like, working with that guy? What is his energy?
He's awesome. I love Sean. Like the first interaction I had with him was I was coming out of the change room and he was going in. We opened the door at the same time and we almost bump into each other. And he looks at me. He doesn't recognize me. I'm a new guy there. And he kind of sizes me up and then he comes out afterwards. Goes, "How much do you weigh? What's your record?" And he like right away wanted to figure out my stats and for training. And wow. He's just like you see on TV. Like he has no filter, but he has the biggest heart. He cares about everybody in that room. He just speaks what's on his mind, and you got to respect that. I love him though. Like he's a great guy.
And Jayden, your teammate you mentioned before, Caio Machado, he's fighting on April 27th, UFC Fight Night, Manel Cup versus Mateusz Nicolau. He's fighting a very dangerous opponent, someone who looks to have very heavy hands in Dante Almeida. Also Dante Almeida is the sparring partner of the likes of John Jones. He trains under Greg Jackson. How are you guys going to get this done on April 27th?
That's what people were talking about with the last couple of guys. They always want to talk about his sparring partners, and that's great. But that's just it. When you're a sparring partner, you're used to, how many rounds you do with John Jones, how many rounds are you really winning? So you kind of get in that mindset of being a sparring partner as opposed to a fighter. Now, Mays has definitely been battle tested. He's fought a lot of really good guys. So he's not going to be, he's going to come in there ready to put on a good show and to perform. But the thing that we know that the world has yet to really see is Caio's the exact same way. Caio Machado is his best and shines the most when he's underneath those lights. This guy was built to fight. Like there's nothing else I can see him doing. Like anything he wanted to do, he'd be great at, but he chose to be, a human weapon. And this guy loves it. He gets in there, he smiles. People think that that's like some type of mental warfare. The dude just loves to fight. So he's been training his ass off. This is the best version of him I've ever seen. And I cannot wait until April when he steps in there, because that last fight was BS. He's coming back hungry, and, we're going to leave with this win for sure.
And of course, the latest big UFC news is in your very own division. Hamza Chimaev is going to be facing Robert Whittaker in UFC Saudi Arabia on June 22nd. Yep. So, just want to get your thoughts about that matchup and who, you think is going to win.
That's a tough one. Hamza, his wrestling is phenomenal. And that's the thing. Like his striking, we saw from the Gilbert Burns fight, very one-dimensional. He leads with his right hand a lot, which is the sign of someone that's maybe not as experienced, right? They're leading with their power hand. He'd go to southpaw, throw the right jab, throw the right kick. And Burns is a small welterweight and did really well. Whittaker, his hands are very sharp. His boxing, his kicks are very sneaky, everything. He's super well-rounded. So on paper, you got to think, okay, Whittaker has, the better chance overall, but Chimaev's wrestling is just next level. So I want to say I'm leaning towards Whittaker if he can stuff that takedown early on. And I would, I would not touch gloves with Chimaev at the beginning just to risk that. But if he can stuff the takedown, circle away, and just tattoo him with strikes, I think it'd be a long night for Chimaev.
And the champion in your division in the UFC right now is South Africa's very own Drus De Klerk. What do you make of the middleweight champ?
I'm interested to see, because I think they just announced that him and Izzy are fighting. Is that right? It's confirmed now?
I don't think it's confirmed. No.
Okay, because I saw.
But yes, that seems like the way that it's going to go.
Yeah, I think they want to, the UFC has ideas and they have a plan for things. I think they want Izzy to be back as a champ because he's very marketable. He's kind of their guy, right? So rather than give Sean the rematch, because as much as I love him, he's
Yep.
kind of a
Yep.
liability sometimes for business. So I think rather than give him the rematch, because I thought it was close, I thought it could have gone either way, right? Give him the rematch, but they're going to give it to Izzy. Izzy wins. He's at the top again, and they have all their pieces in play.
Mhm. And how do you think you match up? With the UFC top 15 middleweights. Of course, middleweight is one of the most exciting and stacked division in the UFC. So just wondering how you think you yourself are going to do with those top 15 UFC middleweights.
I think I do pretty well. Like, and this is, everybody is obviously going to say that about themselves, but as a fighter, you have a little bit of doubt. But it's not doubt so much as I think you got to be realistic in the sense. And these guys, in my mind, were always up here. And then going down there and actually sparring with some of these guys and training with some of these guys, again, it makes me realize like, oh, I'm right now I'm stuck in a regional position, but my talent is not excluded to that. So I think I would do quite well. And I'm excited to, obviously training is much different than an actual fight, but I'm excited to do more training with these guys and test myself and get better. And then eventually, crack into that. The goal for next year is to get on the Contender Series, right? I gotta, I think if I get 2-3 more fights, have that belt, the BFL belt, I can make a good run for it. And then after that, then we start climbing the rankings.
And you mentioned before that you would be also open to joining PFL or Bellator, but I just want to ask, is UFC still the ultimate number one choice?
Well, UFC is the pinnacle, right? It's the top. When people go, my brother-in-law does UFC, they don't say, oh, my brother-in-law does PFL. No disrespect, but that's like, you think MMA, you think UFC. Now, am I exclusively focused on that? No. PFL pays quite well. Bellator pays quite well. UFC obviously is the final destination, but it could be a stepping stone. Bellator, have some fights there, do well, maybe go to the UFC if that's a possibility, right? I'm not going to be so tunnel vision on just going in that one direction. I like to keep my options open.
And now, JM, I was told that your ethnicity, your background is Greek Filipino. Do you ever visit and then go back to Greece or Philippines?
I've never been to the Philippines, unfortunately, but
Oh, wow.
I haven't been to Greece for a very long time. But it's somewhere that I've wanted to go. But with both places, you can't go for like a week or 2 weeks. I would need to go for about a month, I would say, to really enjoy and soak up everything. And with running the gym here and competing and having my family, it's just difficult for me to take the time off like that. But I would love it.
And Jayden, your lifelong coach is Chris Franco. You have been with this coach for 20 years at this point.
Okay.
Of course, you guys have a very special relationship. He's your one and only coach. So just want to hear about that relationship and what of course, you guys working with each other your entire life.
Yeah, I started training with him as just a student. Like my dad signed me up, bought me a membership for my birthday as a way to lose weight. I never really showed too much interest in martial arts. I was a high level competitive baseball player. I was really into soccer, and my dad would always have DVDs and VHSs of the old UFCs and Pride and Top Knockouts, and we'd watch those, but I never really showed much interest. And he said, you know what, go lose some weight, go get some of your youth aggressions out. And that's where I met Chris. And again, from a coaching perspective and a mentor, that started to grow into me being an employee there, and then eventually becoming a partner, competing under the banner. And it's different. Like, if you know someone for a long time, you develop a very good bond. But when you are nurturing that bond from a young age, like I had so many perspectives of him, from a coach to a mentor, to a friend, to a business partner, to a coach, right there. There's just so many ways that I've seen him that I don't think it can ever be replicated. Like, 20 years of seeing and training with this guy every single day, he knows me so well. And sometimes I feel like when we're in that coaching setting or in competition, it's like a video game. Like, I either know what he's about to say before he does it, or as he's saying it, we're so in sync that I'm able to pull it off. And that's something that, again, a lot of these competitors that I'll be fighting and have fought don't have. They have a wrestling coach, a grappling coach, a striking coach, strength and conditioning, all these guys. But I have all that under one roof with one person. So it doesn't get better than that in my eyes.
And what do you think it would mean for your home gym FKP? If you get to the UFC and for you to raise that banner at UFC.
That's the goal. Like homegrown from my very first day of training martial arts. I've never gone anywhere else. From
Oh.
walking in there as a child to walking through those doors into that cage with my coach is the ultimate goal here. Like to hit that pinnacle and achieve my dream and also help him achieve his is why I do this.
And Jayden, you just mentioned that you were a soccer fan before. What soccer team do you support?
Oh gosh, honestly, I don't want too much.
Okay.
Not
Right.
anymore.
All right.
I'm just focused in on fighting. So
And Jayden, before you wrap up, I want to ask some very fun questions outside of fighting
yeah.
as well. I'm from Kyrgyzstan myself, so just wondering, what do you know about Kyrgyzstan? What do you know about that part of the world? And would you ever consider, going to that part of the world, maybe to train, to do a training camp, perhaps maybe in Dagestan?
Yeah, 100%. I love that the Dagestani fighters have really been coming out and just dominating and inspecting. They've changed the game. I was actually just talking to one of my coaches the other day about how their wrestling has been so influential in MMA that everybody's style now is anti-Dagestani wrestling. It's all how to fight off the cage, how to get up off the ground, and like avoiding getting the arms tied up. It's crazy to see that this influx of people that were never really prevalent in the North American fight scene has completely changed everything. So even my approach, like of how I'm wrestling now, is more that style, right? So I love it. As far as Kyrgyzstan, I'm not too familiar to be honest, but I do know I'm a big anime fan, and there was a Gundam 00, which came out years ago,
Okay.
and actually the main pilot is Kurdish. And that's
Okay.
yeah, and he's a badass. So
Right. All right.
that's about it. My apologies.
No worries. And Jayden, you have a lot of tattoos as well, but I want to ask you about one specific tattoo. Could you tell me about the meaning behind this, samurai sword that you have on your stomach? I was very curious about that.
So this is the first tattoo I ever got. I was 17 years old, and I used to draw a lot as a child, and I would always draw my characters with this sword tattoo. And I always told my dad when I'm older, I wanted to get one. And as a parent, you're like, oh no, you don't need tattoos. You don't need tattoos. And then he's like, oh well, what if it's a bad tattoo? You're not going to want it. But I wanted it for years and years and years. And then as I started going into more of the martial arts realm, it started to make more sense. At first, it was just aesthetic, but to be pacifism is a choice, not a burden, right? And that's like something that a samurai philosophy is, and that's I would consider myself. It sounds kind of corny, but like as a modern day samurai,
Yeah,
where our
absolutely.
gym is very focused on traditional philosophies. I'm a fighter by profession, yes, but I would say I'm more of a martial artist in the spiritual aspect and the mentality of it. So it looks awesome. I've wanted it for as long as I
Yeah.
can
No,
remember,
it does,
and
honestly.
again,
Yeah.
and it's unique and it ties into everything that I'm doing. Yeah, I just I'm a big fan of it. I have a lot of tattoos, but it's one that I feel like almost represents the start of my martial arts journey, or
Mhm.
why.
I think that one UFC fighter that you definitely have to meet would be Yuri Prohaska. Someone who is also very much into that samurai spirit stuff.
Yeah,
And
he takes it to
Jayden.
the next level though. I don't think I would be in the woods or hiding, locking myself in a dark room for days. But yeah, he's awesome. Love him.
And Jayden, your nickname is Liquid Steel. Just also wondering, where does that nickname come from, and what's the significant meaning behind it?
Chris Franco gave it to me when I was younger, based off of my grappling style, because at a young age I was training in the adult competition class for our pro and amateur fighters when I was about 13, 14 years old. And I was obviously on the much smaller side than a lot of my teammates, but I was able to the way that I grappled and moved it flowed very smoothly. I was able to wrap around people, get chokes very easily. Had a very kind of like slippery style, but I was very strong for my age as well. So being able to move, kind of like the Bruce Lee philosophy, right? Move like water, be fluid like water, but then be able to harden up and be strong like steel. So liquid steel.
And couple last ones from me, Jayden. Growing up in Vancouver, do you have any street fight stories that you could tell us about?
Unfortunately,
Too
too
many,
many
oh,
to yeah to be
right?
proud of, but yeah, I have a funny one. This is one that I tell my students sometimes is
Okay.
I was out downtown, on the weekend, in my early 20s, just with some friends. and I'm having a hot dog at the end of the night. You know, having
Okay.
a greasy street hot dog. I'm getting ready to go home, and
Okay.
this guy starts yelling at me. He goes, Justin, like, where's my money? And I'm looking around, me, and he's like, Justin, and he thinks I'm somebody else, and he runs up to
Mhm.
me, and he swings and he throws a punch. I body lock him, pin him up against the wall, squeeze and put my forehead to his cheek, and go, I'm not Justin. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, it's the wrong guy. It's the wrong guy. And the message I always tell my students is, if I squared up and started striking with him, I knocked him out, I could get arrested, he gets injured, all because he's drunk and he had a misunderstanding. And that is the usefulness of Greco upright wrestling. I pinned him, subdued him, calmed him down, sent him on his way, finished my hot dog.
Wow, wow. And Jayden, which UFC fighter would you want by your side? If you get into a street scrap, into a street fight, which UFC fighter would you want by your side?
Oh, I'd have to say John Jones, but I feel like that's cheating. That's like when you pick the Lakers in like any NBA game. So he's former. I would pick Mighty Mouse. I
Mighty
feel
Mouse.
like yeah, Mighty Mouse would I feel like he could talk his way out of things, and if not, he'd be very unsuspecting and jump in for the flying armbar. Well, actually, a fun fact before we go is Mighty Mouse's coach, Matt Hume,
Mm-hmm.
was was Chris Franco's coach for a very long time. They shadowed each other a lot. He was his right hand. He was a huge part of the AMC fight team. And when they came down here last time, it was years ago. It was when DJ was still in the UFC. Is they all got to hang out in Vancouver together.
Oh, wow, wow, very nice. And Jayden, one more
Okay.
fun question. Imagine if there was an alien invasion, which 3 UFC fighters would you pick, to help you and help you survive the alien invasion and fight the aliens?
I feel like Tony Ferguson would be good because I feel like that guy's already expecting an alien invasion, so he's probably prepped with some good stuff. Somehow, I know he's not a fighter, but I need Joe Rogan as well for the underground bunkers, and he's
Okay.
prepped. And
Okay.
for number 3, I think I would take Connor just because he's got the finances to,
Right.
not necessarily to fight, but he's got definitely a reservoir of booze and a lot of money to hide out somewhere on a yacht.
No, this is definitely a great team, a fantastic four in itself. But JM, my last question is, can all the fans here, get your final prediction for your next fight? You're a finisher. How are you going to end this next guy?
May 9th, I plan on knocking him out. I know he's gonna shoot. So if he's watching this or if he's listening to this or whatever, like I'm just waiting on when he's gonna shoot. He thinks I got no ground game. If he wants to take it there, then we'll see. But I'm gonna put him to sleep for sure.
And could we get a final message for all the Jayden Liquid Steel Martin fans out there worldwide?
Oh, I got worldwide fans. Man, if you guys are out there somewhere, I appreciate you guys. Tune in May 9th. And if you're just watching right now and you don't know who I am, go check me out on Instagram, Jayden Martin _ and stay tuned for May 9th. I promise you it's going to be a clinic, and won't be long till you see me in the big leagues, baby.
Hey, great talking to you, Jayden. Thank you very much for your time today.
Maybe, thank you so much.